Support the Amigos podcast on Patreon or PayPal and receive cool perks and rad swag. Visit our page at everythingamiga.com/support.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John. And
I'm
today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about traps and treasure. You know, Aaron, in life, you take the good with the bad. You take the traps with the treasure.
I thought you were going to sing the Facts of Life theme, just for a split second.
Now, Aaron, this week, you told me on the phone earlier that you'd had quite a week full of traps. So perhaps you'd like to extrapolate a little bit.
And they took my treasure on top of that. No, not to get too graphic, but I was sitting around and I grabbed my phone and checked my PayPal account. I was like, I don't even know why I did it. No reason. Just I hadn't done it for a while. And I noticed that I had spent a bunch of rubles, Bode.
Did you buy another Socrates?
I normally don't spend rubles. So I got to looking, and I had like a screen full of charges to my PayPal that were 2,500 rubles generally, up and down a little bit, which is about 36 American dollars.
Okay. Up until this point, I thought you were just using your wacky carny lingo to tell me about dollars.
No,
but you're talking about actual
rubles.
Okay.
That's right. And so, what was I spending these rubles on, you might ask? Well, that you ever seen this game, let's call it like World of Tanks, and they've got World of Battleships. Well, I'm spending it on that. I'm getting stocked up, apparently, in Russia. So, I looked down the list of my PayPal, of course, was empty. And so I was like, I know I left some money in here, and I know I don't live in Russia, and I don't play this game. So something fishy may be going on. And so I looked, and there were like 70 charges of around $36 each, give or take. And so I thought, that's not good. And so I checked my actual bank account with which my PayPal is linked. So if I need money from bank account, it just comes, well, guess what? Rubles were being pulled out of that too, my actual bank.
That's scary.
So long story short, someone has the world's greatest tank or battleship because they spent probably a couple grand on pretty much all my money. Let's just put it that way, spent on this game. So I immediately called up PayPal. Well, I tried to do PayPal stuff. I'd shut stuff down and did the usual stuff. And then tried to get hold, you're much like eBay. PayPal is one of these setups where you never actually get to speak with anybody. And so I finally, and you can't do this sort of thing without speaking to somebody. Because I needed that. I had to file like 73
fraudulent charge reports,
transaction for hold-ups or whatever. So, and it kept saying, well, change your password, do this, that. So I went to this rigmarole. So finally I found the phone number for PayPal. I've been on PayPal for like 15 years or something like that, a long time, almost since it was born. I never had any problem, but I mean, PayPal's got a rep, and I called them up and went through the phone tree, and then at the end of the phone tree, this chick comes on and says, due to the COVID-19 virus, PayPal currently has no operators. Goodbye. And they hangs up. That's it. I was like, this isn't good. So then I called my bank up, my local bank.
They won't let you down.
And I told them what was going on. I told them, I said, for God's sakes, block PayPal.
What is this, Putnam County Bank?
PayPal also wouldn't let me remove my bank as well.
Weird.
So I could remove the card, but not the bank. And so I was afraid they could still keep siphoning money out of my account because they had done it that day, like right before I found out. And so my bank stopped it. Then my bank managed to get back all the money that had been taken out of my bank account. I think I got back, and I had to get out of the bank today and fill out forms like that deep. It took forever. But PayPal is in flux right now. But probably when this is all said and done, I doubt I will be getting that money back, to be completely honest with you. So lesson learned. Don't leak your PayPal to your bank account, and for God's sakes, don't go that long without checking your bank account. I mean, it seems obvious now. Like I said, I've had this set up for years, and you would think that if someone, I've never played these games, and I don't live in Russia, and PayPal is a bank effectively, so you would think when they saw 70 ruble charges in the span of 3 days that might ring a bell somewhere. Like, hey, this could be fraudulent. But I'm assuming, I'm going to give PayPal the benefit of the doubt and assume that since the virus is going on, that they just are super understaffed and they're not paying attention. Because I would assume that normally they would have gotten hold of me on this by now, but
yeah,
they didn't.
I think I think that's fair. I think under normal circumstances, something would have been set off. They do have two-factor authentication on PayPal to keep people from.
It's on. It was on. So whoever did me good and proper. You don't have a choice on PayPal. You has to be on. So
that sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was not, that wasn't the worst thing that happened to me this week, but it was right up there. It's been a rough week, Bode.
Are you going to leave us hanging? You're going to leave us without the worst thing that happened this week?
I woke up. I had to go on a long drive Monday, and I was laying in bed with my eyes open, just kind of laying there. And I've got this big, huge fan that blows on me. And I don't know what got in the fan, but it gave me the old Muda, or the Great Kabuki treatment. It just blew stuff into my eyes. Both my eyes. I was blind as I was just, And then when I got up, I cleared my one eye out, but my other eye I couldn't see out of it for like 2 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
It was all jacked up. And then I had to go drive 350 miles that day. So that was not good either. That was probably worse than the actual than the whole situation with the bank. The bank's not good either, but that sucked. That hurt real bad.
Are you fully recovered now in terms of your eyes? You doing okay? Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Dowdies are a resilient bunch. We can't be kept down.
I know that. I know that.
And I still have managed to play all the games and spend quite a bit of time with them as well. So, and had a lot of fun to research. I've been very busy this week between the bank and driving around and doing work stuff. So it's been one of those weeks. But you've got your new job, and I saw a picture of your office. It looks very swank. It looks like you had about 30 computers.
Well, what happened was, they gave me an office. And I said, I just couldn't work in there. It was too small. It was too confined. And the air conditioning didn't work. It was mostly the air conditioning didn't work. It also had one of those computer desks. I hate computer desks. Give me a table. Just give me a table. I hate when they raise the monitor up. My hatred of monitors that are not like below eye level. You've experienced that yourself when we used to play in the backyard, or in the arcade all the time. Remember when I'd come over on Sunday mornings and we do the streams?
Oh yeah, you did whine about that.
Yeah. So anyway, I moved. My office also has its own conference room. So I just moved my predecessor has a computer that has a bunch of important files on it that I need. And so I just moved his computer out there, and then I moved my laptop out there too, because my laptop's better than the old computer. And so I've got a real wacky arrangement now with multiple computers and multiple screens everywhere. It's just how I like it. It's just like Amigo Studios. Computers and screens everywhere.
How are they giving you an office with no freaking air conditioning?
Well, you got to understand, the building that I work in, Farrell Hall, was built in 1925. And it's some sections are like the first floor looks like a dream. Okay. The second floor, you start to see the paint peel off the walls. My office is on the third floor. It's no man's land up there, man. Nobody goes up there. So
that's well, hopefully they'll get it fixed up for you to a certain degree. Make sure there's no asbestos.
Well, the conference room is comfortable. The air conditioner works in the conference room. Plus, the chairs are a lot more comfortable in there too. So I just spread out. I'm good to go, man. So that was my week starting the new job, and but so far so good. So Let's talk about my real job, Aaron, and your real job. That's making videos for Amigos Retro Gaming YouTube channel. What do we got on the docket, man?
We made a few this week. Amazingly, Boat. So, I guess the easiest place to start would be, let me see here. Let's talk about, let me see. We'll talk about last week's R. Sinclair vote. For those of you that didn't join us live, we looked at a very wacky game. You know, I got to tell you, Teresa told me she sat and watched that episode. She's never watched any of our shows. And she said she cackled as she watched the werewolf walk through the street. And then as a human, because he does, like I said, that is his gait is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like captured on film. And the werewolf, this gimmick here as he runs through is also pretty hilarious. But we covered Werewolves of London. I think I liked it. I think you liked it. I wasn't 100% sure. I don't think you were either. But it's certainly not boring. It's wacky. Any thoughts on that particular game?
I agree with you. It's a wacky game that I neither like nor dislike, but it's definitely a unique entry into the spectrum. It's another one of these kind of crazy open world adventures. You wouldn't think that there were so many open world games, but between this and The Hobbit and all kinds of other stuff, there's all kinds of like open world games where NPCs are walking around doing their own thing. So yeah, it was unique.
Yeah. It's a pretty large world too. I was kind of impressed with that one. Next on the docket, when we reviewed or covered, if you will, Deluxe Galaga all those years ago. That was like probably the 40 episodes in the 40s or 50s.
Early on.
Edgar Vigdahl, or Edward.
I think it's Gore Vidal.
Anyway, no, it's not Gore Vidal. Anyway, he did a great job on this game on the Amiga. I mean, I love this game. And so I've been setting up Coin Ops next on the PC, as you know, and I thought I'd add a bunch of DOS games. And, of course, in my brain, Vigdahl had a game that it was like a sequel to Galaga, Deluxe Galaga, that was released for DOS, which actually was released for Windows. But it was called Warblade. And I had to look long and hard to liberate a copy of this. And I still haven't. I've had people send me links where they think they could buy this, but if you look at the links, one of the things is an address to his house, and he's been dead for several years. So I'm not sure I would trust these links to get any money to. So I'm not saying you should pirate this. I'm saying you should buy it, but I don't know anyone that's selling it. But we covered Warblade on the PC. Now, this is an awesome game. I'm not going to lie to you. And my kid has fallen in love with it, too. We've been playing the crap out of it. It's got simultaneous 2 players. You hear a lot of games that are in the spirit of... This is more than in the spirit of Deluxe Galaga. This is the next chronicle in the Deluxe Galaga saga. I mean, it is off the charts. I don't think I've ever seen a game like this with this much love and craftsmanship put into something. I mean, it's all the way down to the backstory, the menus... Even the high score table, if you click on the names, it'll tell you when the score was made, how long
That's
they
super
played,
awesome.
their
I
accuracy.
love that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked, I don't know if you've had, I know you haven't had a look at this, Bo, because you don't have it. I'm going to give you a copy. But anyway, so this is me playing Warblade. And then afterwards, we just go through, I was doing a live stream, and I went ahead and played some other wacky games. I played some Jumpman. I played on the PC. I played some crazy Xbox 360 shooting games. I did what you're looking at now. If you're watching the video, there's a updated Xbox 360 version of Gyrus. I played that. So if you're into that sort of thing, just some shooting games, you might dig this. But I do strongly urge you to go out of your way to look into getting Warblade, because this is really a triumph of that genre, that shmup genre, in my opinion. But I guess maybe it's not for everybody, but I really like it. So there you go. Me and Brent did a little show last week, and we'll call this show the ARG Presents Dick Smith Wizard.
Another fantastic thumbnail. Did you do that thumbnail, or did Brent do that?
Those are all Brent. He does all the thumbnails, and he's very creative, isn't he?
Very creative.
And so this time around we did that. I love the Dick Smith Wizard boat, as you know, and we had a little taste of it on ARG's Thanks for Giving Marathon, and this, so we got to get a full show about it this time. And I really enjoyed it. The problem is the Dick Smith Wizard. I like it. It looks cool. I like everything about it, but the game selection is real limited. Boat. They've only got 18 official titles for this thing, and they were. They're almost all like arcade
it seems
clones.
to be very, very in like to the Intellivision. Sort of, but definitely better than the 2600, but not quite as good as maybe the ColecoVision or the NES or something like that.
You're right. I mean, it's funny because the hardware for this is the hardware for this, the Coleco and the Intellivision are all like in the same ballpark. In fact, there was an adapter for this thing at some point. I believe that you would let you play Coleco games on it, if you can believe that. But yeah, this was a real fun week. I'm not saying these are the best games you ever saw, but it was fun to learn about the Dick Smith Wizard. And I will say Brent's game, which is called Locomotive, which is a Burger Time clone, makes the most annoying noise I think I've ever heard. So if you want to hear annoying sound, hey, that's what ARGs are all about. So that was a good time. And this week, if you're interested, we'll be filming. We film every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this week we're going to be doing live. We're going to be looking at regular Nintendo NES games from 1985. So year one.
Are you at liberty to tell the audience what the games are, or do you want them to tune in?
We'll just let them tune in on that one. If you're in the Discord, you know. Let's see, Bo, I think we talked about your arcade tour last week. Yeah. So I think the only thing we've got left. We'll talk about the Coco.
Well, why don't we talk about my? I did a live stream too last week.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten it, but I'm trying to go in line of thought.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Let's talk about Coco.
Coco last week we did a game called Mind Roll. Mind Roll is actually a port of from other consoles and computers of a game of a different name. Do you remember the other name?
Quasimodo.
What? That's not what it was.
It started with a Q. That's the only Q word I know.
Was it Quasimodo? Anyway, a weird game that looked at Marble Madness and said we could convolute that, and they did. But it's an interesting game. It's very different, and even the game itself has different levels that are totally different types of games. Both. So if you have a Coco, I would say give this one a shot. I think it's a pretty interesting game. Lastly, the Boat NES stream. I think the quote here is, "I can beat this." The Chippendales Rescue Rangers. Now, this is a show I never watched.
Yeah, this one definitely came after you were well into your adulthood when this show was on, but this was right in my wheelhouse. I was probably 9 or 10 years old when this was on, and I really enjoyed it. There was a whole suite of programs called the Disney Afternoon that included this and DuckTales and some other shows. But this is one of those games, one of the very, very few games that I can finish. And it's also one of my favorite platformers, not only because I can finish it, but just because there's a good variety of levels and I like the mechanics and stuff. So I played through the entirety of Chippendales Rescue Rangers. And then I had some time left over. I like to stream for about an hour at a time. So I was like, why not fire up Super Mario Brothers? And so I fired up Super Mario Brothers. And lo and behold, for the first time ever in my life, I beat Super Mario Brothers without using the like extra life cheat in World 3-4, where you bounce on the shell and you get a whole bunch of men. This, I just ran through the whole thing. Of course, I used the warp zones, but I ran through the whole thing. I completed 8-4, the last level of the game, on 1 life. Unbelievable. That's never happened before. So
that is a heck of a run. I didn't know you'd done that at the end. I'm gonna check that out.
So it was a fantastic stream. I had a good crowd on there. Here's the final moments. If you're watching the video, as soon as I went through that last Hammer Brother and ran underneath Bowser, it was a glorious time, Aaron. A glorious time.
A future speedrunner.
That's right.
Mode.
That's right. So that was my stream. Sometimes I just like to play Nintendo. It's just who I am.
And watch
trains. I like to watch
trains go by. Yeah, it looks good, man. I've never beaten Mario that easily. I mean, it seems like I've beaten the first one, but it was a long time ago, and I never have done it without the warp tunnels. I use those every time. I can't help it. They're there, you know?
Yeah. Well, Aaron, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in the wide world of Amiga news this week. So we're going to kick things off here. You know, Aaron, it's sort of a show rule that we don't talk about games that are under development. But every once in a while, we break the rules because we're rebels. And when it comes to Tapper, I'll take all the updates you can give me. There is a new update to Tapper for the Commodore Amiga, and it's looking great. It's looking so great, I can't believe it. Are you excited for this one, Aaron?
Yeah, it is. Oh, you know I am, Bo. I think I'm the one I linked you onto this. I was like, look at this. Let me tell you something. We both love Tapper. We both love to own a Tapper machine because they're so awesome looking. It's funny. I don't like beer, but I like this game big time. And I've always been a fan. And so when I saw this pop up, so I don't know. I don't know if I was the one that linked it, but so I saw it. I was like, holy smokes, we got to get us some of that. So yeah, and the screens he's got up look great. You know, so I'm all for it. I love me some Tapper.
Yeah. I really think that the Amiga was definitely the first computer that could even come close to emulating the kind of fidelity necessary to display Tapper in all its glory.
It looks nice.
Let's move on, Aaron, to a new tutorial. This one is by our buddy, not really, but somebody that I've actually met in person before, Muad'Dib. You know, Muad'Dib. I believe that this guy, his real name is Klearchos, and he hails from Greece. And he is the Amiga ray tracing dude. And he's going to be doing a series of ray tracing tutorials. And this is just the intro video that's like setting you up for like, once you take my lessons and you learn of me, then I will teach you how to do all this rad stuff. So if you are...
He's got cars. He's got a Viper from Battlestar Galactica. Lady Go.
So if you are into ray tracing on the Amiga and you want to learn to get better from a true master, check this guy out. His YouTube channel's name is Muad'Dib 3D. Oh yeah.
You ever done any ray tracing on the Amiga?
We've been doing this show 5 years. I still don't even know what ray tracing is.
Well, I remember having this program and like I remember rendering like a ball, you know. And I remember it'd take like 50, I mean, this has been a long time ago. Don't ask me how I did it, what I used, I don't know. But I remember it was taking 14.6 kabillion years on my Amiga 1000 to render this thing.
Next up, there is check this out, Aaron. There is an Atomic Bomberman fan remake. So Atomic Bomberman was a game that came out for OS4, for AROS, for Windows. And I guess the game has fallen into disuse. And so this guy has basically, you still have to have the original game to get this to work, but he has rewritten it, much like, what was that game that we played? Oh, Lord of the Rings. Remember how there was like a Lord of the Rings, there was a fan thing, but you had to have the original software? It's the same sort of deal. And so, anyway, if you are a fan of Bomberman, and who isn't really, and you have...
Me.
You don't. Oh, I forgot. You don't like Bomberman. I take it back.
I hate Bomberman. I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't get it.
But if you are, especially you OS4 folks, you need all the love you can get in OS4 world. So download this, play it, live it, love it. Next up, Amiga has been released, Aaron. This is the Raspberry Pi build. There are kind of multiple competing builds for the Raspberry Pi. There is an Amiberry, there's Amiga. They're all sort of at war with each other at loggerheads.
Really?
I don't know, but sometimes it's nice to pretend there's drama where there is not. And so this is the updated link for Amiga for Raspberry Pi 3 and 4. I know that there's a lot of, the Raspberry Pi 4 has been met with sort of a lukewarm response because there are a lot of incompatibilities between the 4 and the earlier models. So I think that this guy has retweaked some things and is making it ready to rock and roll. I have not personally ever played around with any Pi builds on the Amiga. Have you, Aaron?
Oh, yeah. I've had... my Raspberry Pi 3 with a big... I mean, I kind of mix my Amiga build in with my overall arcade gaming build, You know, the problem I had... We've mentioned this before, and I've changed my I changed my outlook on this a little bit, but the old versions of the Pi stuff for the Amiga, I had mine in my trusty Commodore 64 conversion Pi box, and the keyboard didn't cut it for that because it had certain keys that were hardwired in you needed, and I didn't have them. And so, but I mean, the quality was okay, but when you were talking about the Pi 3 and the Pi 4 is slowly starting to get love. They've got the front ends have been updated, and the for the arcade stuff, and I noticed stuff so slowly coming over to it. I mean, the Pi 4 is a better, obviously a better piece of hardware. It's not like leap years better, but it's a little bit better. I'll be honest with you, I was kind of hoping for a more radical update when Pi 4 came out. That you
were looking for something more like the Atomic Pi, right?
Well, I mean, I guess kinda. I've kind of hit my personal wall on the Pi thing. Not because there's anything wrong with them, it's just because I don't know what to do with them. I can play stuff with other stuff, and But I mean, if you've got something really small and you don't want to spend a bunch of money, you're good to go. And if you want to make an Amiga out of one of these things and just have it sitting there and that's what you want to use, that's cool. But I got so many different ways to play emulated Amiga that I just don't care.
I understand.
I mean, if I need to, I can just load up the Coin Ops Next on the PC or load up Amiga Forever or just use my actual Amigas. But I'm lucky, I guess, there. But I mean, this is a good build. It's if they've gotten it smoothed out, I'm sure it'll run quite nice on the new Pi.
And finally, Aaron, the Oliver twins have launched a new website. Of course, the Oliver twins more famous for their 8-bit work than their 16-bit work, but they did do Amiga games. And this is a really excellent site. I copied and pasted this link, and I clicked on it, and I wasn't expecting to spend a whole lot of time on here. But man, they've really done a great job of really detailing all of their games. You can click on each one for more information. There's all kinds of, there's a whole Dizzy section. I really thought that this was an incredibly well-designed site, and it's a site worthy of the legacy of the Oliver twins. I thought it was amusing that most of their Amiga games were ports from NES games. So talk about taking a step back. And that's probably why they're.
Now wait a minute.
Yeah, that's why I'm talking. I'm giving props to the Amiga. They could have done more, but they settled for less, is what I'm saying. So
that I'd say I saw this link and I haven't clicked on it into it. I'm looking at it now. The site does look awesome. I'll have to say they've got a lot of work on here, and I hear all kinds of different stuff about the twins. It's a mixed bag. But I can say that they seem real nice when they had them on the show, and they've always been super cool. I've never seen them but they take a lot of flack sometimes. But I think this site looks great, and if you're into Dizzy and stuff, Dizzy's got a bunch of fan sites, so they needed to have a pretty nice something on there for Dizzy, considering what they're competing against. So, and they've got some games coming out, don't they?
They do. I think that they're planning another Dizzy game. This is so awesome, Aaron. You can actually go into one of these. You click on any one of these games. They give you a YouTube video and then a link that you can play it in an online emulator. All right there. Yeah.
That's nice. That's real nice.
Very, very cool.
Thumbs up for that.
Well, Aaron, the gamble train is rolling away. We'll see it next week for another roundup of Amiga news, but right now, it's time to talk about traps and treasure.
Bo, were you like me and had not even heard of this until Kim's video?
Exactly. That was the first time I'd heard of it.
Yeah, I had not heard this. If this had came up 2 months ago, we'd have just sat here going like, ugh. But as it were, we had been tipped off because Kim Justice covered this in her Amiga platformers cavalcade a little while back, and that's the first time this came across my radar. So when this popped up last week, I was actually sort of excited for it, and it turned out to be it's got quite an interesting backstory, Boat, which we'll get into here momentarily. So this came out in '93 on 2 discs and developed by an outfit called Nightingale. This is the only game they ever made on the Amiga, and I don't think they really weren't a proper outfit to begin with, which I'll get into that in a little bit. This was published by several different folks in Germany, where this game comes from. This was published by Starbyte. It was also published by Chrysalis in most of the world. It's a one-player game. It's in English or German. The big brain behind this was a fellow named Roman Werner. All right, he's done a few games on the Amiga. I've never heard any of these games, but he's done maybe one. He did Champ. He did Shooting. Excuse me. He did Championship Shooting.
Boy.
He did Leonardo, and my personal favorite, Clownomania.
Man, where is that game on the AGSC list?
Yeah. The graphics were done by a fellow named Orlando Peterman, who was responsible. Now, listen to some of these, Boat. He did Ball Raider. I don't know about that one.
Not interested.
Championship Shooting. How about this one? Crack. He did Crack, Boat. Duggar, Garrison 1 and 2, Insanity Fight. That sounds pretty good. Leonardo, Magic Marble, Realms of Arcania, which I had heard of, Ringside, and Rolling Ronnie.
Okay.
So this guy had been around the block. That's pretty much it. The musician on this was someone named Rudy Hugentobler, and Roman also did some of the music himself. So it was a combo effort there. I think the graphics guy, I'm pretty sure he's the one responsible for the title graphics, with the pirate. When this game comes up, there's just kind of a wacky picture of a pirate. It's real nice.
It's literally one of the best looking, title screens I've ever seen. I mean, it's animated in just the right way. It reminds me of one of those classic Spectrum loading screens, except this one looks way, way better.
Yeah. So this game really is this game's sort of a jack of all trades game, or a Swiss Army knife of games. You've got several different genres kind of coming together in sort of an unusual way. Because from the outset of this game, there's a long intro paragraph that you read that talks about these pirates their ship going down, and the captain, and a bunch of them got captured, and the captain has to go and try to rescue them, and then also try to steal back money from the guys that sank his ship as well. And so there's a lot of backstory. And then you turn up, and you play the captain, and it's a platforming game from there. But it's a platforming game with puzzle elements, a strong puzzle elements section, or the whole thing's puzzly. Plus, they've even kicked in some sort of role-playing elements, or so. There's so much backstory in this and little sub-stories that it's all there. There's more to it. Someone you can tell spent a lot of time cultivating and crafting all the text in this. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So, and on top of that, as you go through it, there's a lot of exploration. So when I think of a platformer, right, the first thing that pops in my mind, and we just talked about it, was something like Super Mario. You run through a level and you platform. Then you've got your European style platformers, which this definitely is, because there's a heavy collection element in this in terms of not only are you rescuing your caged crew, you're also collecting pieces of a map, you're getting money, you're collecting a ton of stuff. You're collecting vegetables and fruits and health. There's a whole bunch of that. Plus, you have to explore these huge levels. Plus, there's the role-playing element. So there's a ton of stuff going on in this thing. Boat. What were your initial thoughts when you booted this thing up and saw all this stuff crammed into one screen?
Well, at first, when the game starts, it's wall after wall after wall after wall of text. You get major backstory. I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like put that in the manual if you want it. Like, there's no way that is going to be that important to the game, and it's really not. So my first impression was negative. However, once the game started up, Aaron, we play a lot of games, and I don't know that we've played too many games that I feel have been this well, and I use this word on purpose. This game was crafted. You know, this was no slapdash effort. Somebody put thought into every single aspect of this game. There was nothing in this game that was half-butted. It was pure, like, I mean, everything about it, from the sound design to the character design to the animation to the way that all the different game mechanics work together, everything was done to the best that the people working on the game could do. And it's very, very rare to find that in this sort of scene.
I'll get into this was sort of a labor of love, which I'll get into it here, because I'm going to really touch on the guy that really did the lion's share of the work on this. But I want to go into the game so we can at least explain what you're doing. So you're a pirate. We said we're going around. You're saving your crew. The game starts off after the text. You've got a map. And I will say, this is one thing me and Boat like, is an overworld map that tells you what you're going to be doing before you get there. You can see your progression on the map. That's a good thing right out of the gate. Then you start off. Now, I will say, when this starts off, and you can tell this is going to be a pretty quality effort just from the way the title screen was, everything, and the music's. I mean, the music's not like the best music I've ever heard or anything, but it fits the motif of the
well,
game.
it's fun. The music is situational. Like when you're above the ground, there's no music, there's only sound effects, and then whenever you dive into the water, you get this like ethereal sort of underwater theme that plays. It's really quite impressive.
I will say the underwater theme I do like. So you start off basically at sea, and your first goal is to swim to the pirate's island, and along the way you have to rescue your crew. And it keeps track at the bottom. This is a game that's about 2/3 of it is gameplay screen, and the rest of it is giving you your statistics, what weapons you've got, a compass area, the number of crew you need to rescue, and at the top of the screen you have a hit point bar.
And here's another thing,
and how many men you've got, and you've got a real
everything that you collect in this game goes into the HUD in some place. So it's not just like you're picking stuff up and you have no idea why or where it's going or what you're doing. Like this follows in the grand European tradition of being a collectomania game, but this differs from most of the games of the grand European tradition because it gives you a graphical reason. You know, you don't have to consult the manual to figure it out. You see things, gauges fill in, like the vitamin thing up top that fills in a really attractive way. Everything makes sense from the get-go.
Yeah, the stuff you can collect, just to kind of go over real quick, of course, you're picking up your men, okay? You can eventually get a compass, and it fills in a little compass area at the bottom of your screen. You can pick up, you can also pick up journals, and each journal will have or logs, I guess, and each log will have they have a little story in them. You can collect those. Then you're also collecting a treasure map, which we'll get into that in a moment. It goes towards the bottom right of your screen. You're also picking up fruits and vegetables, and those are kept track of with a little chart on the top of your screen that has just a picture of those, and as it sort of adds more as you go, and when you get enough to fill that bar, you get an extra man, which is good. Then you've got hit points. You're also collecting those, and on top of everything else, you're collecting money, which you can spend in a store. It also, like Boats, it has a listing for what tool you're using or you've got currently in your set to use, and what weapon you've got. So they've done a good job, kind of at least helping you keep track, because that's a lot of stuff. But like you said, unlike say a Zool or something, not just randomly correcting crap. That just because when you first play this game, that's what I thought. I'm like, look at all this crap. Here we go. But it all has a purpose. So as you go through the game, and I have to tell you, Boat, I thought this game was. I thought it was hard. It was too hard for me to get very far, and so I had to use codes to go further on. But right away, you could tell that whoever put this together, I will give them this credit right away. There was some thought in the level design. It wasn't just random crap speed everywhere, because when they call this traps and treasures, they're not kidding. There are traps. There are things specifically designed to hose you unless you're paying attention or if you've been there before. And they're cunningly designed, aren't they, both?
There are so many touches in this game that you can just tell that this person understood what good platform design was. Like, your guy is not in the middle of the screen all the time. You know, it's not like one of these things where the screen follows you and you're always in the middle. This guy took some lessons from the best Japanese developers and said, okay, this is how we're going to do it. There are no blind jumps in this game, at least not now. I'm not saying further on down the road, because Lord knows this is a super long game and there might be some later on. But you know, from the levels, and I played a little bit of each level. I also had access to the codes. Everything was very fair. I agree with you. It's a very hard game. This game could have done with having much shorter levels. Instead of having, what they really should have done was done something like Super Mario Brothers 3, where you have your ship pulls in just like it does, and then you have an overworld with individual stages, like 4 individual stages that comprise the one actual stage that is in this game. That would have made things a lot easier, because not only it's a psychological as well as a difficulty thing, because in this game you're playing the first level and it just seems like forever, and you really don't know how close you are to getting to the end. If they would have broken it up in some way that you could see the end, it would have pushed me to keep on playing maybe longer than I would have.
This game, I mean, while we're expounding on its virtues, and which I'm not done with that, but we might as well get some of the negative things on the table. These levels are exceedingly long. They're too long, and this is the continual. Now I know there's a large point in the game to explore. I mean, this is a game where you're going to look through the whole level, and that's fine and good. But you've got to break these things up. These levels are super long. And it's frustrating. Now, luckily, if you die, you don't go all the way back to the beginning. There are places as you go through that they'll put you back. But it's still, you'll often go way far back when you die, and it's real frustrating.
Yeah. I'll tell you that
because the game is so difficult. There's a cheat that gives you more hit points than you start off with. I don't know if I couldn't get that.
I got the cheat to work. The screen flashed, but then I couldn't actually activate any of the goodies.
I didn't actually find out about the hit point cheat until today.
I will say
so that I knew about the code.
I will say,
and so I played this. I had to emulate this and use save states a lot just to get very far. As you go through, Boat mentioned that there's parts that are underwater, especially on the first level because you're at sea. There are large chunks of the level that are underwater, and you can go into there and it's to get treasure mostly, but there are perils everywhere. One thing about this game, everything hurts you, and everything pretty much hurts you equally. If you jump on a spike, you lose a hit point. If a starfish grazes you, you lose a hit point. If a tiny little fish touches your foot, you lose a hit point. You can also double up on the damage. If you jump on a bunch of spikes, they can just kill. They'll spike the crap out of you until you're dead. I mean, you've got to get off there. The soldiers or pirates you come up against, if you get caught wrong, they'll kill you. If you come up against there are just certain things that you've got to be very careful even when you're getting hit to get out of there, because if you don't, you'll just stay there and just get killed.
Well, here's the thing: the secret to this game, and I only discovered this after watching this long play, is that what you have to do is you have to collect all the money all the time. And then when you go to the store, the first thing you have to buy is more life blocks, because there's plenty of potions and things that will restore all your health. But the key is that you have to get those heart containers, And so that is the secret, because you can fill up that whole bar with heart containers. So by the end of the game, you have like 10 blocks of health, and then you're sitting pretty. If you don't do it that way, it's very similar to the Addams Family in this regard. You're going to get screwed. It's going to be over.
Yeah, I will say that really the two things I would go after immediately when you can get them, and you can't do this right away, but or like Boat said, unless you're using the cheat that gives you just a ton of health bars automatically, I would go after that. And you also want to upgrade that weapon. You start the game with this dagger. The dagger blows. What I like to get, Boat, was the big ball and chain, the big morning star, wherever it was. You could also get a big old sword. There's like a shot thing. So weapons are a good thing, and the stores are going to change depending on what part of the level you're on or what level you're on. Some stores just have food. Some stores just have bombs. Something else you can buy at the stores when you see it are maps. And this is an unusual feature in terms of something you can buy from a store. But you can get these maps, and when you use them, it sort of gives you a zoomed out view of where you're at, so you can see the level. And so you can strategically use this to when you get confused, you can go out and you can use these maps to show you everything around you so you can sort of get an idea of where to go. I thought that was pretty clever, Bo.
The problem is that they're one-time use. And so you...
Right, but you can buy a ton of them. And they're cheap.
It's another mark of somebody that really thought this thing through. You know, like they could have easily put in a mapping thing where you can press M, you know, and see the map. They decided to go this way to add an extra element of strategy, and I approve. I think it's a cool idea.
Well, you're right. You could have had a map. This isn't the kind of game where I'm going to whine about not having a map. You know, so to me, this is just an awesome addition that's clever. You know, I like that. I got to play all the levels, at least as far as I could, given my ability, which was not always good. There are a lot of areas where you use like boxes and stuff to reach different areas. There are hidden areas. There are areas they have like stone that you can bust when you jump on them. There's a lot of it's pretty puzzly, Boat, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of puzzle action trying to figure out how to get
say there's light puzzling. You know, I would put this on the same level of a game like Gods. This is not the Lost Vikings, you know.
I'd say it's somewhere in between Gods and the Lost Vikings. Yeah, I mean, it's closer to Gods, obviously. But I mean, I thought you had to really think, like, even when you didn't have to use boxes and stuff, like a good platformer often does, to access places you wanted to get, you sort of had to put some thought into how to get there, you know, because they were just inaccessible. Or how do I get out of this? I will say you don't have to worry about breathing underwater. Your guy can do that, so there's also that. There also is a timer. But I mean, that never bothered me because I got killed before I ran out of time. I will safely tell you, I never got off the actual first huge level of this. I think I came pretty close, but I never actually got off.
Well, one of the things that they do to show you how close you are is when you're getting down, the levels are not linear, but they are not insane. Like, this is not like Yojo, which you just immediately get lost. This is more in line. It's even better than Super Frog in terms of linearity, which Super Frog is also pretty linear, but this is about as explory as you can get, but the game does push you in the right direction most of the time. There's not too much verticality, I guess I'm saying. And like I said, they sort of built in a system where you can see how close you are because, you know, you're rescuing crew members, and obviously as you get fewer and fewer crew members, they're counting down there in the bottom of the screen. So that's a way you can kind of see your progress.
Yeah. And sometimes your crew will give you tips and stuff. I like that aspect. There's also things you can read. Also, the guy can effectively move into like the third dimension. So you'll be able to go into rooms and when you'll go in front of like an open doorway and you'll just go through the doorway. You can or you don't have to, but you can. You know, they do a good job of that. There's also an element where you jump up and you've got sort of it's like a pirate flight that floats you down to the ground, the old parachute thing. So you don't have to. I mean, because if you fall too far, you'll die. So you can use the pirate flag thing to kind of make you go down slowly. That reminded me of a game I played on the Xbox 360, but I can't remember the name of it. Then you've also got the treasure map. When you complete the treasure map, you get to go to this bonus stage. And the bonus stage is it's different for each area, but basically the gist of it is you're jumping from on top of these different islands and obtaining diamonds. And so you just get tons and tons of points. It goes to the end of it until you fall off. Did you ever get to one?
I never found all the pieces of the treasure map.
I didn't either, but it's still kind of neat to look for it. You know, I thought that was kind of cool. Now, I want to talk about, and this may shed some light on a few things, Boat. I actually found Roman Werner's blog.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And he wrote about this game. And so, the first thing I thought was interesting is he went to his outfit used to have Starbyte, who published this, had a Christmas party every year in Germany. And he brought his game there and wanted to see if anybody wanted to pick it up. All right, it was still into production being made, and so they made him an offer, and he made another offer, and they couldn't meet. They wouldn't meet. So they said that finally they went back and forth on the price, and this is straight from him, by the way. He says finally, the managing director of Starbright took out a dice, and he said, "Look, He said, choose between even and odd numbers. If you win, we'll use your price. And if I win, we'll use my price on what we're going to pay.
Which is
you.
Insane.
And so they effectively rolled for his price, and he won. So he got his price. Little did he know he was going to lose eventually. So he went to work on this thing, and now think about this. He was working on this in July of 91, and he realized he was way behind schedule, and he was. And they kept pounding him to get this thing done. And so he finally had to end up bringing some people on to work on this thing. And in December of 91, Starbyte said if he didn't finish the game by the 2nd of January 92, they were gonna basically sue him for 200 million Deutschmarks, or 200,000 Deutschmarks. So he had to get it done. So he worked and worked. So you can tell right now we're behind schedule, right? But this guy was a perfectionist. In his blog, he talks about how he wanted to make everything just right, which you were talking about. You could tell someone that was doing that, and that's what he was doing. So get this. Finally, he finished the game in July of 93. So he'd been working on the game for like probably 3 years at that point. So he finished everything up, and he sent in the game to Starbyte, but he sent it in with a dummy title screen, because that way they couldn't screw him and publish the game without paying him effectively, right? Well, guess what? They published the game anyway, and they had an earlier title screen that they put on it. They took the dummy screen out and they published it anyway. So all of a sudden he looked up and the game was on the market. All right. Now here's the hilarious part. It's not that funny. Starbyte declared bankruptcy, like right after they released the game. So his game, he didn't get paid, obviously. And so he was like, well, at least I've got the rights to my game. He didn't have those either. Those were negotiated in the deal for Starbyte. So he had to get another company, another guy to help him. Eventually, as far as I could tell, he actually got the rights to the game. And he actually got some money eventually. But by that point, the die was cast, as it were. And since the game was made by someone who went out of business, it didn't get a whole lot of circulation. And which is probably why people like me and you have never heard of this game, Bode. So this guy really went through the ringer for his game. But he mentions, you can tell by listening to this guy, that when he worked on it, he planned on the whole game himself. And eventually he had to bring in some people to help him because he was so far behind. But I have to wonder if the title situation with that long paragraph was probably going to be animated at some point, and it just didn't happen. That's just a guess. Because when you read that, it seems like something you could have animated pretty easily and made it much more interesting. But yeah, so the reason this game is so good probably cost this guy in the end, because he took too long to make it. So there you go. And effectively, you can look at it from another standpoint. Starlight was waiting on this game to come out, Starbyte, to make them some money, and he took so long that it probably contributed to their demise.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of those smaller development houses, they were, they were banking on financial winners, and especially if they were, if it took them a while to accept his offer, I'm sure that offer that he made them was not a low offer. It's insane to me that somebody would roll a die to determine, such a large economic outcome, but I don't know. Maybe that's how they roll in Germany or whatever. Anyway,
something else that, on top of everything else, of course, this game, we got a release date on this thing of 93, but that was in Germany. It didn't get released. There was not an English version available until 94. So and I don't know how much money you're going to make just by releasing your game in Germany, but I would assume that the majority of the money you're going to bring in from this thing would be from England or the U.S., English-speaking countries.
I don't know about that. The Amiga scene in Germany is freaking huge. So
let's put it this way: you would get maybe half of your money from other countries.
You definitely wouldn't get it from the States in 94. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, in 94 you probably wouldn't. But at that point you realize in 94 you're running. I should also mention that the game has a sequel mentioned in it called Redbeard's Revenge. If you play this game to the end, you get to see this. This game was mentioned but never made, so no sequel for this one. This is one of those rare Amiga titles that you don't see on any other computer. It never got ported. It never got any sort of anything outside of the Amiga. So if this is a exclusive treasure, as it were, if this is your bag, what were your overall? Where are you going to place this boat in your pantheon?
Well, I mean, to me, this is definitely top 5 platformers on the Amiga. If it wasn't for the length of the levels, it's such a killer, because it's hard for me to heap praise on a game that I can't beat the first level of. If you recall my ranking of Amiga platformer series, that was one of the major categories, was can I beat the first level of this thing and actually feel like I've made some progress? If it wasn't for that, this game would be almost perfect. It combines the puzzle elements, the role-playing elements, the action elements, the collectible elements. There's such a good balance of everything. It's really, really, really good. Really, really good.
I think this game obviously has a lot of care and thought put into
Here,
it.
let me. I'm sorry. There's one thing I want to mention. This is how much care went into this game. So in every game, there's always a sequence where you're in a corridor and there's arrows, a thin corridor, and there's arrows shooting across, booby trap style, okay? Most of the time, those arrows just disappear. Not in Traps and Treasure. In Traps and Treasure, they hit the wall, they crumple up, and they fall to the ground. I mean, it's little things like that. The sound design on this game, if you do nothing else with Traps and Treasure, load it up and just listen to the sound design. Listen to the sound that everything makes. Everything has a unique sound. Nothing sounds like your generic cartoon sound effect, like blah, blah. It sounds like somebody put some time into making a sample that sounded like it was supposed to. I'm in awe of games that take that kind of trouble, because just most don't. Most don't take the trouble.
When I was playing this, and I was thinking to myself, there's so much in this game that you've got to not forget to mention, and because there's a lot here. We didn't really get into stuff like explodable walls.
I will say
stuff like that. Which
there's one thing: you can't jump and weapon. That's a bummer. Yeah. That's a big bummer.
It's up for jump, of course, as well. This game, I like a lot of the elements in it. Again, I'm much like yourself. It's the levels need to be split up by probably into threes. They really are that long. You could easily split these into threes and you could get away with it. This is not my sort of platformer. I don't like these exploration platformers. I don't like collecting stuff. I'm more of a hey, listen, I'm a traditionalist when it comes to me. I'm an American traditionalist. I like your Mario Brothers style. Just start at the beginning and go to the end. That's just me. That much said, I can get past that in a game like this, because obviously the game does a lot of things right. It's a fun game. This is a game that you definitely would probably want to emulate, unless you're a real star, so you could save your places. So you can save places along the way. If you like the European style of platformers, this is probably amongst the best on the system.
I've never played one.
If you like exploration platformers, this is probably one of the best ones you're going to find in that era.
I can't think of a better exploration platformer on any system that I've ever played.
It's got a lot going for it. There's no doubt. So I hold this in pretty high regard. Again, am I going to go back and play this every day? No, I'll play it again. But it's just something. Like I said, I don't like searching for stuff, because I get lost too easy. But if this is your cup of tea, you're gonna be happy. I looked up some reviews on this boat, as I occasionally will. Lemon gives this an 8.26. When this came out, it did get reviewed. Amiga Action gave it an 85. Amiga Computing gave it a 49. I don't know what's up with that.
Is it 49 out of 50?
No, 49%.
That's crazy.
Amiga Format gave it an 82%. Amiga Power gave it a 79. These scores seem low to me, though.
I don't get that at all.
CU Amiga, 65%, and the One gave it a 79%. Now, even the Lemon score, 8.2, which it's not a bad score, but that even seems a little low.
This game destroys every game that people say is awesome on the Amiga. Full stop. This game destroys.
Listen, I can't.
This game destroys Shadow of the Beast. This game destroys Super Frog. This game destroys Cannon Fodder. It destroys all those games. It's a much better game.
Well, Cannon Fodder, that's a whole different.
It doesn't matter.
It's a good title. It's a quality title. I'd have to go. Those scores are low to me. I would put this somewhere if it was me scoring. And again, and this has to be your cup of tea. I would definitely
think about that
80s.
game that we played the other week. That platformer that the guy he drew a dragon and he thought it looked cool, so he made the game around it. What was the name of that game? Do you remember? It was the other It was a Psygnosis platformer. You were a Japanese looking dude.
Oh yeah. I do remember that. It was pretty good.
Yeah, that game was good. This game destroys that game. This game is so much better, but that game got tons and tons of great reviews. So I don't get those reviews at all.
It is odd. Did we get any Discord action?
We got quite a few. This was a popular title over on the Discord. Frodo NL writes, cute, very playable platformer that does not seem easy to complete. I'm not the biggest fan of underwater section in platformers, but execution here works quite well. Of course, there's the old favorite Up for Jump. Good thing my 8-bit dough pad came in earlier this week, but that could not really be helped. Even so, the keyboard is needed too for some activities. It doesn't interfere with the flow of the game though. All in all, an enjoyable experience, 8 out of 10. Deckard Threepwood writes, this is an extremely well-polished Amiga platforming game. It's got it all. Graphics, playability, music, sound effects, and tight controls. I did play this earlier this year, but only made it to stage 2. I've been meaning to come back to it, and this episode has given me the perfect opportunity. It is fairly difficult with long stages, although it does have a password system, so you can progress through the game without having to tackle the ones you've previously conquered. 9 out of 10. And then he puts in a little side note, a little nostalgic memory from this game. When me and my brother were kids, we were playing this game and my dad came in to see what we were up to. My dad said, this isn't really a realistic game. The guy can hold his breath forever. To which my brother replied, oh yes it is. The pirate has the world record with the whole 7 seas for holding his breath underwater. Or something like that. Barkbit writes in and he says, this game is way too hard for me in 2020, but I can see how a younger me would have devoted many evenings with it, would I have known about it back then. If you can memorize the stages and forgive the frustrating unarmed water sections, there's fun to be had here. A good looking platformer I'll come back to. 7 out of 10. Graham W. Webkey writes, I hadn't actually given this platformer much time prior to this review, and it's turned out to be a fairly well put together game. The music is very good, and the sound effects suit the game well too. The art style is nice, and the level design is fairly good, but they are very long in length. I'm not quite sure why, but the store in this game reminds me of the Black Tiger store. The controls worked well, and I found them quite responsive, and while the underwater area is annoying, it's one of the better underwater areas I can recall. Traps and Treasure is now rated closely to some of my favorite Amiga platform games, an easy 8 out of 10. Pixels of Dawn writes, it takes an accomplished game to get past my broad spectrum of hatred for underwater levels, but Traps and Treasures manages this with aplomb. I'm not really sure how to say that word. Aplomb? Aplomb? Aplomb. With solid swimming controls and no horrendous drowning mechanic. Elsewhere, the game looks and sounds brilliant, although some areas would benefit from music which have none. Tight controls and a strong and well-used theme make this easily one of the best platforms on the Amiga. 9 out of 10. Paul, aka Hermsky, writes, a Herm Firm, 8 out of 10. Never played this game before, but thoroughly enjoyed it. Played very well with smooth, relaxing animation and sound effects. The game reminded me a little of the 8-bit Alex Kidd at Miracle World on the Master System. Overall, a superb game. And finally, Jason warns his review. Wow! 8.5 out of 10. That's all you need.
But, you know, I just thought of something we'd forgotten to mention, and this was something I had to say. I couldn't figure out what had happened. You know, as you go through the game, you're building up the vegetables and stuff in your little nutrients area. For God's sakes, don't pick up a skull.
That's no good.
Because all the work you did goes away instantly the second you pick one up. It takes away all your nutrients because you really need those extra man.
Yeah.
I like that too. Again, the little touches, the different weapons, the stores, all the stuff. It builds a nice, fun game, a well thought out game. We liked it, but one last item. eBay. This is important, Bode. This must be a pretty rare one, my friend. None had been sold recently, and there was only one for sale currently, boxed. $274 their best offer. Now that's a phishing scheme for fishing for cash, but I would wager these things go for pretty good money, because it's a super rare game that I looked pretty extensively to see if I could find some back pricing on it. I would wager this one didn't get a wide release.
Yeah. We do want to thank Pixels at Dawn for suggesting this title to us. We appreciate it. We also want to thank all of the people in the chat that are here with us right now. Pixels at Dawn, of course, doing a great job doing the modding in the chat. Picard 2010, Jost 80, Go Sub, Polyester Links, Paul Kitching, Edvin Helland, let's see, Jan Holbro. Thank you guys, Barkbit, so much for hanging out with us in the chat. We want to thank all of the people that subscribe to us on Twitch. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription, and you can subscribe to the Amigos on Twitch and help us out financially, and it doesn't cost you a dime. We'd appreciate that if you want to do that. And Aaron, of course, it's time for the moment we've all been waiting for. It's been 2 weeks since the last Patreon song, and we have something very special today. This is this week's Patreon song. If you know this week's Patreon song, send me. Oh, I forgot to announce the winners of last week. That's because there was none last week. Because So
I was going to see how you handled that.
You can send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, and I will announce you as the winner. So without further ado, here is this week's Patreon song.
Joel Fuchs, Cupboard Boy, Rich Drury, John Cook, Frodo and El Sol as Isaac Mage, Zebedee's Magic Roundabout, Jurgen, Mr. Kohler, Daniel Williams, Bernard Lucas, Jerry Dennington, Zoglob, Commodore Kid, Rushi, Bjorkvin, Goodness and Reflection, Simon Letch, Luke Hudson, Camping Crispy, Kilobytes and Caffeine, Mike W, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator 10-minute Amiga Retrocast, Bernard Quinn, Retroman Cave, Tim, Drew, Simon, Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle, and Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Sean Zoe, Barkbit, Roland Berg, Andrew Mines, Joe the Zombie, Lev Kalong, Ledent, Alan Kebab, Chicote, Levelon, John Marshall, Matthew Perron. Ricky DeRocha, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy C, Dizzy the Slow Norris, Stefan Sorgan, Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Blendo 75, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Bolts, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Graham W, Bebke, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's, Retro Vintage, Gary Huckasey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tapes from the Cribs, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley. Jonas Rulo, THT. Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Humberstead. Daniel Banksman, Bruno Barracuda. Darren Cole, Jason Wants. Pixels at Dawn. Kjolbjorn Bob.
All right. So we hope you guys enjoyed that.
That was gold. Solid.
Who knows?
Gold.
Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll be back with another tune for you. But until then, Aaron, we got another game to play for next week. We are going to be playing Space Crusade. Is it Space Crusade or Space Crusader? It's Space Crusade.
I've heard of that one. Is that based on a
yeah?
it's
a
Warhammer
something? Game.
Oh yeah. You know I love.
I can't wait that you're going to have to tell us some Warhammer tales.
I don't
listen,
play Warhammer.
You're going to have to make up some Warhammer tales.
I'm not in the tax bracket to play that.
Well, we're going to play that next week. It's going to be a good time, and we hope you guys will join us. We will see you next week, and until then, adios.
Adios.